Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Argon. So you guys have requested that I go and test out Corbin the Venerated a little bit further. Test him out against some actual enemies who can fight back. So I went into the Master of the Hunt to test out the average amount of damage he could do within combat. And we went and compared that against these other top damaging companions, the Githyanki, Regis, Succubus, and the Wayward Wizard. Ideally, I would have the Mystical God here and also the Splinters, but it is what it is, and you should get an average representation here of comparing against Corbin. Corbin does have the ability to cast a fireball and cause the ground to burn, and thus somewhat have an effect that can cause multiple targets and deal damage. So what we did is we jumped into this Master of the Hunt in private queue and went and soloed the thing multiple times, once for each companion, and we got an average damage for each of them. We can see the chart just here at what average damage we were getting for each of those companions. We can see the Gith did really well there, with over 6,000 encounter DPS, with Corbin the Venerated being there at absolutely the bottom with less than half the amount of damage the Gith was getting. Now keep in mind all of these damage values are a lot lower than you will see in any other content than the Master of the Hunt, and the main reason is because we are scaled down in this Master of the Hunt to only 2,160 base damage, meaning our companion also does a lot less damage. But all of this will scale up. The more base damage you have, the more damage all of these companions will do, not just one of them. All of them scale their damage from your own base damage. Something to keep in mind is that Corbin the Venerated does have this fireball effect, and it also has this burning field effect, which doesn't stack with his own damage. But you can see the damage from that burning field was only 54 average DPS, so that was nothing, and we can add that to his overall damage, and that gave us that damage value of 2,873. So that was next to nothing. And we can see with Master of the Hunt, the Gith there, it still took us 9 minutes to complete, but its average damage, it was carrying its weight with 6,251 average DPS. We were getting Regis at nearly 5,000, we were getting the Succubus at 5,724, and we were getting the Wayward Wizard at 5,430, giving us that chart again here. Now, in an AoE environment, it's very hard to make sure your companion will have combat advantage against all the targets. Of course, the more combat advantage they have, the higher damage they should deal. Now, also keep in mind, this is a solo run. So with Master of the Hunt, when you only have one person killing those enemies, the enemies will take a lot longer to kill. Rather, when you're in a full group, things will die like really quickly, because you will generally have 3 DPS in the party. So this is Corbin, and his fireball effect is really terrible. He just causes the burning on the ground, which gives ticks of, you can see, not even 1,000 damage when he uses it. This sword attack seems to be able to hit multiple targets, but it cannot at all. It's not AoE, and this is the burning effect, which can hit the other enemies beside, but you can see ticks there of not even up to 1,000. He's dealing hits with his at will strike, which is about 13, 15 to 20,000. So overall, his average damage was really nothing in an actual combat test there. Another thing to keep in mind is companions which can deal lots of big damage at the beginning of the fight usually excel better than companions that can deal more consistent damage. The Gith will take a while to actually start spinning against these dummies. You can see when we go and activate it, you can hit with his sword there, unlike Corbin, and he can actually hit both dummies. It's an AoE attack. But then when he goes start spinning here, you can see that was after about 10 seconds. So as long as all the enemies don't die so quickly, he will have a chance to get all his damage off. But if they die so quick, then he has no chance. Regis, on the other hand, you can see when we activate these dummies, he will go and use his Whirlwind, which is his big attack, and that will do all his damage then nice and quickly at the beginning of the fight. So he'll have a chance to get some damage in before all the enemies are dead. It is the same with the Succubus and the Incubus. You can see they have a deadly kiss, which again they will use as soon as they enter the fight. And it can deal massive amounts of damage, up to like 400,000 on a hit. And lastly, we have the Wayward Wizard, which similar to Regis does have this large area. The Myskagog is a very similar one to it, which is even somewhat better. You can see that Wayward Wizard will run off and end up only hitting one target with his large power. But if the targets are attacking him and focusing on him, he won't be able to run away from them, so he'll be able to hit them all. However, the Myskagog is a bit better since he'll try be adjacent to the enemies when he does the big power. And that's pretty much it for the comparison for these companions and the reason behind their damage. Again, we were doing Master of the Hunt solo, enemies weren't dying so quickly, so the Githyanki could deal the most amount of damage. The Githyanki is that companion who will help carry you more than the others. However, keep in mind the Succubus and the Incubus will make it so that targets will take 10% increased damage, meaning you'll increase your own damage as well, and that would definitely make the Succubus and the Incubus a bit better than the Githyanki if we took 10% of my encounter DPS and added it to the Succubus. Personally, I wouldn't go and buy a Gith just because you've seen these tests. I would buy an Incubus and a Succubus, but again, companions really don't deal a whole lot more damage than about 10 to 20% of your average damage. Focus on your own damage first. Companions should be kind of a last priority thing to try and choose which one to use as summon. First, focus on getting these companion equip bonuses, ones that will improve your own damage, and just use one of the companions that you then have on Mythic as a result. You can have again a look at my DPS damage sheet here. This is one's for AoE. I'll have a link in the description also for the single target one, and you can compare the companions that you have and see which one is the best for you to run. That is what I recommend. You can search for them alphabetically here and then by how much damage they're dealing here with them being ranked. This, again, keep in mind of the notes, is against dummies. So this is not me running actual content because it's really hard to consistently test like that when you're running with multiple people. Every run will be different. You might die here and there and so on and so forth. It's just a nightmare. It's easier to compare with dummy tests, which will give an average amount of damage that they can capably deal in a controlled environment. But again, environments always change. You'll have some areas where Regis will do better. You'll have some areas where the Succubus and the Incubus will do better, and some areas where the Gith will do even better. So as we've seen, Corbin is really not a companion worth picking up whatsoever. Even for his equip bonus, it's a 10% chance to proc. If it was a 100% chance, I still wouldn't even pick it up, perhaps for AoE, but still it's not worth it. It's better off having a consistent damage bonus than something that's a chance to give you more recharge speed. Overall, he's a pretty useless companion and I wouldn't recommend getting him whatsoever. Don't bother paying the Zen to get him. You may as well pay the Zen if you just want to support the game and you just like the other rewards that are available. So as always, I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of my channel members for helping me keep my channel going. And if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.